Welcome to Legacy Leaders, a podcast where leadership begins with you. I'm Juan Gutierrez,
I'm Ben Davis.
and each week we dive deep into personal development, purpose, the mindset that shifts, courageous leaders, because the first person you're ever going to lead is yourself.
Yourself.
Today, second podcast, ready to get it. You know, we're on our grind, trying to make things happen, trying to create leaders, trying to build up people's, what can we say?
Build the community.
You feel me?
Try and get people motivated and get them believing in themselves, and really just about empowering each other.
You know, it's we're just getting started. You know, like I said, we follow the page on Legacy Leaders 25. Share it if you like it. Just let's build up the community, be strong, and let's create the next leaders of tomorrow. Today's topic is a good one. You know, it's what's it mean to be a leader in the world today? What do you think about that?
Being a leader in the world today. I mean, there's a lot to say about that. I think you got to start with yourself, right?
Yes.
It always starts with us. Like you said in the intro, you can't lead anybody else unless you can lead yourself. So that means your morals, your values, how you hold yourself, how you carry yourself through the day-to-day. I think that's a big part of being a leader in today's world. And we talked about it in episode 1. How do we bring the next people with us? How do you bring the next generation? How do you motivate those around you to get back to the community and make the world a better place?
You know, and it's something that we need in today's society, because a lot of people just don't want to be that leader. They want to follow. They want to follow those trends on social media. They want to follow their friends to those parties. They just want to be followers, you know, and we want to build that next leaders for America to come, you know, because you have kids. You want your kids to be the next leaders to guide people to greatness, you know, just like you're doing today with us and helping us develop the next leaders, you know. And that's a very important topic, and let's really get to it. Like, let me get your definition of a leader. What's that mean?
My definition of a leader is somebody that holds themselves accountable, somebody that can teach people not by just saying, hey, do this, hey, do that, but shows them the way. You know, there's a difference between a leader, a mentor, a coach. Everybody has a specific role, right? A mentor is someone that comes alongside of you and really shows you, teaches you, show, tell, do, review kind of thing. Where a coach, they typically work on a certain skill set, right? So there's a lot of coaches out there that are great coaches. But to be a leader, you have to be someone that's charismatic and someone that holds yourself accountable and somebody that looks after people. Servant leadership, it's take care of people. That's to be a leader.
Correct.
It's a servant mentality. You know, it's often a lonely road because we're looking in the mirror. What can I get? What can I get from this? Can I get money? Can I get likes? Can I get social media impact? It's not about that. Being a leader is taking care of other people. Can I get you likes? Can I get you money? Can I get you taken care of for your family? That's being a leader, showing everybody else how they can do it. That's a leader.
And, you know, that's 100% correct. You know, a leader is a person that's going to show by example. We're going to do the stuff that he's not going to ask someone to do something that he's not willing to do. He's not going to tell someone, he's going to see the fire over there. He's not going to tell someone to go put the water out. He's going to go over there and put it out himself, you know. And a lot of people get that confused because I said it in the last episode, sometimes people get that title and guess what happens? Oh, I'm a leader. You're not a leader. You're just someone that can tell another person what to do. And when I was in my role of being a manager, you know, as a leader, I didn't tell no one to do nothing that I wouldn't do. If the team was going down, I was in there in the trenches with them trying to get them out, you know, and that's something that I respect about you, that you're the same way, you know. Even though you're the boss, everybody looks up to you. You're not afraid to get your hands dirty and get in there and show them that, hey, you're still gonna lead with those words that you say. You're gonna show everybody that, hey, if I can do it, we can all do it. You know, if one person goes down, well, we're gonna come all over here, pick them up, and we're all gonna keep on going towards it. And as the time has come, has your definition of a leader evolved, gotten better, or have you seen some aspects that you used to see that you see differently now?
Yeah, as a young leader, it is a little bit about holding that position and that authority, and it feels good. And, you know, to lead from a position and a title is a whole different story than leading for your people. You know, we talked about it in the last episode about a young leader that kind of mentored me and somebody that I followed my leadership style after. You know, it's about getting in there with your people, like you said. Roll up your sleeves, you know, do the work with them. But don't just do the work with them. Enjoy it. Have fun while you're doing it. Show them that, you know, work is not bad. Work is a good thing. Having a good work ethic, and you can have fun doing it. And it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about the camaraderie, the relationships that you build. Everything is built on relationships. You know, we talked about it several times. So I think that being a leader really comes down to how can we impact people through relationships and building trust and friendships, and I take care of you, you take care of me, and if everyone does a little bit, nobody has to do a lot. You don't have to bear the whole load. So if you're a leader, you try and take on more, they're naturally going to jump in and they're going to try and take on more as well with you.
And like you just said, when you're that leader and you show them, they'll do it with you, or they'll even stop you and tell you, hey, no, I got it this time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I'll give a little story about that, because when I first started coming up and being in that position, you know, holding that title, I wanted to do everything myself, because if it wasn't done right, I wasn't going to be happy. Or if I seen someone doing it slow, I was just going to do it fast, you know, and I didn't have that sense of showing them the leadership. Okay, hey, I can show you how to do it. Let me be that leader to guide you through what you're about to do so you can do it correctly. And now I ain't got to worry about doing it no more, because I know I did a good job over here. They have that faith in me because they saw I was doing it side by side with them and showing them exactly how it was going to be done. And eventually, you know, with the time went by, you know, experience, I ended up learning it, you know, and next thing, like you said, people wanted to do for you, and everybody was willing to do anything for me. They didn't want me to work, and I was trying to work. I was like, come on, man, I'm trying to work. No, get out of here. No, I'm trying to work. But that's the great part of being a leader. When you're a leader and your people, you develop your people to a certain point, they don't want you in there no more. They're like, hey, man, now you showed us. Now it's our turn to shine, you know. But in a world full of noise, how do you define authentic leadership?
I think the noise is the social media, and it's the people, and it's the likes, and it's the hearts, and it's everybody that's, you know, creating noise and fake trends. You know, you see all these social media trends, and it's not real. It's not authentic. So I think just stick to yourself, be true to your heart, you know, and really lead with purpose as far as your circle, right? And how do you get to know other people? Like, do you talk to people in the grocery store? You know, hey, how you doing? Have a great day. You know, when you're in public places, are you making connections? It's not just about the people on your social media. Are you impacting people on a day-to-day? Are you talking to the lady at the gas pump next to you? Are you helping pump her gas? Maybe you're washing windows or something. You just create those relationships. But in a world of today, there's going to be noise. There's always going to be noise. And it could be your friends. Your friends could be the biggest naysayers you got, right? They could be the biggest people out there saying, oh, that's never going to work. That's not going to work. It could be your family. It could be people the closest to you saying, hey, this isn't going to work. You just got to be able to follow your heart and push through. You know, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you have to be true to yourself. You have to follow your heart. You have to follow your mind. And you got to put your confidence in knowing that you can do whatever you set your mind to. We said that in the last episode, too. You asked me what one of my quotes is that I live by. You know, always do what you say you're going to do. Yep. So if I say I'm going to do something, you tell me I can't do it, I'm probably going to do it twice.
Yep.
You know, like I said, I lead with that chip on my shoulder, I always have. So tell me I can't do something. Watch me go and do it.
Yep.
You know, that's just the fuel to the fire that I need personally as a leader in my life to go out and accomplish even more, is when people say I can't do something. I'm like, okay, bet. Watch it.
And you know, just like that, you said that chip on the shoulder. They told me about a podcast. They told me they would try to shut me down a lot, you know. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to go after it. I ordered all my setups. I set it up. And, you know, I'm a person the same way. You tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it good. I'm going to show people I can do this, you know.
The funny part about that is, too, though, people told you couldn't do that, right? So instead of sitting there and sulking and thinking about it and should I do it, should I not do it, you got to work. You know, so a lot of the difference in whether you succeed or not in life, right, is just putting it into action. There's millions and millions of people worldwide that have a great idea or want to start a business. And the hardest part is literally just jumping and doing it, right? And so for you specifically, you know, this is a work in progress. We know that, right?
Yeah,
we saw the first one. This is the second one. We got bigger things to do and bigger things to come. And we're reaching out to other networks and other people that we know that are doing like-minded things, right?
Yes.
That want to be leaders, that want to do things in the podcast space or leadership or development space, that want to impact lives with us, right? It's a greater picture. It's not just about you. It's not just about me. It's not just about this podcast, Legacy Leaders 25. It's about how can we impact the world. But the great thing for this example is you weren't afraid, man. You jumped off the cliff head first, right? You're like, I'm going to go buy my stuff. You went and dropped a couple $100 on some podcast equipment, set it up, say, hey, come through. I want to interview you. Here we are doing a second episode, and now let's keep it rolling.
You know, and you just said about it, the fear. I didn't have that fear. And now this is our next question. How do you lead people through fear, change, or uncertainty?
You know, the fear is always going to be there. People are always going to question themselves. It's funny because you look at little kids, right? And you go up to a mountain and go snowboarding. You see all the adults, they're all, you know, kind of taking it easy. The fall is farther, right?
Yes.
They're older. It's figuratively and literally farther if they fall. They're taller, it's going to hurt more, right? The kids are close to the ground. But they know no fear because they haven't gone through life experiences. They haven't experienced failure. They don't have their parents or friends or network of people around them saying, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's not going to work. They don't have the naysayers, right? So you got 2-3-year-old kids. What do you see their parents doing when they start walking and stuff like that?
They're scared.
They start clapping. You know, the parents are scared, but they motivate them. They clap. They cheer them on, right? Imagine if your whole network around you was cheering you on, sharing Legacy Leaders 25, or sharing a business idea, or sharing a book, or sharing, you know, it's the fear of failure is what keeps people from creating the action that we just talked about. Everyone wonders, what if? They also wonder what other people think about them. Who cares? You know what? If you like me, awesome. You know, I love it. I love you too. If you don't like me, great. Maybe I'm not your cup of tea or your shot of whiskey, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, you have to know your worth. You have to value yourself more than the noise on the outside world. The outside world has a lot of noise constantly, but it's crazy that strangers are going to support you more than your friends will, more than your family will. You're going to have people from across the world, never met you before, that hear your message, it touches their heart, and they get behind it. And that's how you lead through that fear and that social anxiety of what people are going to think about.
Yes. You know, and great thing you said about the fear with the parents, you know, sometimes that we grow up, our parents sometimes transfer that fears to us. So we start growing up with those insecurities or those fears, and that limits us from being our full potential because we're sitting there like, oh, my parents told me not to do this because this is a consequence. And I was the opposite. I had to go through those processes in order to learn. You know, my parents told my brothers and siblings, hey, you know what? Let Juan do his thing. He's going to learn eventually, you know, and I did have to go through a lot of struggles, but I ended up learning all these lessons, and that's what molded me to be able to start this podcast and do a lot of great things in my life. But fear, there's a great book out there that says fear is the number one thing that stops everybody from achieving their goals.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true because they're afraid to take action. You know, we talked about action. Fear is directly related to that. You get comfortable in your life, and you're comfortable. You got a house, you got a nice car, you got a good job. You know, I'm in a nice house, a good car, good job, great family. So the fear of failure comes from what I can lose. It's short-sightedness, right? Like, I'm focused on what I can lose instead of, hey, what can I gain? What can I get in this world? How many lives can I impact? You know, and when you impact lives and you give purpose to other people, those other things come. Success comes. You know, so when you're out there and you're trying to do things like social media and things like that, if you're just out for likes and you're not trying to impact people and you're going with the social norms and the TikTok trends or whatever it is, right? That's all good. Like, I hope you get yours too. Yeah. I want you to win. I want you to succeed. Because maybe it starts as that, right? Yeah. I mean, you look at some of the biggest names in Hollywood or even in the music industry, right? Like, look at people like, say, for example, I won't drop names on here, but there's hip-hop artists out there, right, that rap and stuff about, oh, I had it like this, and I got money, and I got all this stuff. They don't have any of that. They're broke. They rented that stuff for a music video, you know? So, but when you speak it into existence, there's a lot about that, right?
Yes, manifestation, speaking into existence. It's amazing when you actually, like, full on apply it to your life, you know?
You can manifest anything.
Yes.
Right? I can be whatever I want to be. Our parents tell us that when we're little. And we listen and we got big dreams like, man, I'm going to be an astronaut, right?
Yes.
And as life goes through, you get all those outside noise, like we talked about, all the people, the naysayers saying, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not, you know, strong enough. You know, who are you to say what I can and can't do? The only one that can say what I can and can't do is me.
Yes.
That's it.
And one thing, like we were just talking about the fear about the parents, you know, as a leader, something that you told me too, it was an amazing thing. He's like, and I never saw it until you actually pointed it out to me. You know, when you come with a bad attitude, you affect the rest of the crew. He's like, you're that leader. So when you're angry, everybody else around you is angry. But when you're happy, smiling and laughing, everybody's having a great time. Shift goes amazing. And I didn't see it until I actually started looking around me. And when I had a positive attitude, everybody else had a positive attitude. We could be getting our butts kicked nonstop. But if I was laughing, cracking jokes, and just enjoying my job, everybody else was happy.
Emotions are contagious. You know,
Yes.
emotions are very contagious. If so goes the leader, so goes the rest. That's a
Yes.
saying, right? So if you're the leader and you're pissed off, everyone else mad around you. But if you're having fun, like you said, and you're laughing, joking, you're setting the tone. You know, a leader is that poise under pressure. They're the person that really coaches people when the pressure's on. When everybody else is about to lose the shit, you're the person that's like, hey, we got this. Come on.
Yep.
We got it. Get up. Let's go. You know, that positivity is very contagious.
Yes.
Right? And it goes both ways. Positivity is contagious. Negativity is contagious.
Yes.
You know, so it goes back to the manifestation.
Yep.
If you start talking about how great it is, it's going to be great. It's all a mental cycle. We talk about the difference between the euphoric effect of anger versus fear versus excitement and things like that. And we've talked about the psychology of it
Yes.
before, right?
Yes.
And all of those have the same exact psychological tickers, so
Yeah.
to speak, right? Like when you're excited, what happens? Your heart rate
Races.
jumps up, right?
Yes.
When you're angry, what happens?
Same
Your
thing.
heart rate jumps up. You get little butterflies.
Yep.
When you fall in love and you got a little crush on someone, you get them butterflies,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And you get that fear of jumping off a cliff into the water. It's the same thing. So it's really not about the euphoric effect on your body. It's the psychological effect. It's how you train your mind to overcome those feelings. Only you can decide if you're angry. Only
Yes.
you can decide if you're happy. Only you can decide if you're excited. So those emotions are important, man.
Yeah. And that's going to be a whole different episode talking about emotions as a leader and all that. But I like
That's a deep dive. We'll have to spend a whole episode on that.
it
alone.
is, you know, and change in today's society. It's like something that I apply to my life is I got to be adaptable to whatever situation I'm in. If something switches, and that's something that I learned from you all. I got a lot of experience from him, you know. And as managing, that's something that I knew because we were gonna have call offs. We were gonna have something that was gonna run out, and either I sit there and wait till he comes to give me the answer, or guess what? I adapt to the situation. I make those changes. Oh, this person's not here. Well, we're gonna pull this person over here. I'm gonna pull this person over here. I don't have this. Well, we're gonna use this for this now. You know, and making sure I adapt to my situations, and that's a thing that a leader has to do, be able to adapt to every situation that he's in, even with his people, so his people can see, okay, like we said, we lead by example. So if we show them that we can adapt to any situation in their mind, manifestation, you know, visualizing it, they're gonna do the same thing. Okay, when you're gone, what are they gonna do? What would he do? Boom, he would do this.
They start to learn those things to look for, you know. But you said it earlier, you know, if you were to do it yourself, you know it's gonna get done right.
Yes.
But you got to be able to step back, even when you know they're gonna fail, and let them fail sometimes. You know, you gotta let your team make mistakes, because we said it in episode 1, and we've talked about this many times in our relationship. You know, and going back and forth in our friendship, that if you don't fail, you don't learn.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be adaptable. You have to pivot. You got to be able to use critical thinking skills and think outside the box. I talked about that short story in episode 1 about the guy breaking the window.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to get what he needed. It's about thinking outside the box and being adaptable, but really just never rolling over, never
Yes.
giving up, and just saying, "Oh, that's it." You know, a good example of that, a good story is, look at COVID, right?
Yeah.
COVID-19 hits,
Yeah.
right? The world shuts down.
Yes.
California is under some of the strictest laws and strictest policies when it comes to COVID. Can't go out to eat, can't do this, can't do that. You can do to-go food only. You can't go to movie theaters, right? So in the restaurant industry, we had to pivot. We had to make sure that we had that time to think about things and be change makers, right?
Yes.
So here we go, setting up circus tents in a parking lot and feeding more people outside in a parking lot than we had inside, right? And we were one of the busiest restaurants, not just in town, but probably in the United States at the
Yes,
time.
most definitely.
Because we didn't just roll over and give up. You got other restaurants down the road that were giving up. They were rolling over. Oh, we can do it to go only. They're laying off 150 people. Worst day of my career was when I had to call 140 employees and lay them off, right?
Yes.
2 months later, you shift it to where we open those tents and stuff. One of the best days of my career is being
Yes.
able to call all 140 of those people back. Say, hey, I need you. You ready to work? Come on. I got work for you. You want some sense of normalcy? Come back to life. And being able to pivot was an important part of that, because if we just rolled over and we didn't pivot, we didn't change, we didn't think, we'd have been just like everybody else. I'd have been stuck at home, depressed as hell, no job, you know, looking for purpose in life instead of going after it, succeeding, and making something happen.
You know, and you know, it's amazing when you're able to adapt and to change. You know, life is constant change. If we don't adapt to our changes, you know, we're gonna be stuck in the same way. And there's companies, big companies back in the days, and let's talk early 2000s, early 90s, that ain't here no more because they didn't adapt with the generations that are coming. You know,
Yep.
so that's what's important as a leader, to adapt to every situation. But why is self-awareness more important than ever in leadership today, bro?
Self-awareness is important in leadership because you have to know who you are in order to lead other people. You said even in the introduction to this, right? Before you can lead someone else,
Yep.
you got to lead yourself. So if you don't know who you are and you don't have that self-awareness to know your management style, know your leadership style, how do you influence other people? So to be a leader, you have to be self-aware. But in order to get some of that awareness too, you have to ask for raw, candid feedback.
Yep.
Right? There's been many times in your career where I've had to come to you and be like, dude, you're being an asshole. And you're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're being an asshole. Chill out. You know, and there's times where people have come to me and told me the same thing. Like, Ben, dude, you're in the wrong. So the self-awareness comes with the accountability. We talk about accountability a lot.
Yeah.
The self-awareness has that self-accountability to see your flaws. None of us are perfect. We talk about that quite often. And be able to adapt, like we were just having a conversation, change, adapt. So that self-awareness is a great tool to really reflect on who you are as a person and what your overall vision is, what your mission is, what your goal in life is. So if I'm being an asshole, how am I going to influence people? How am I helping the world?
Yeah.
I'm not. So when you call me on my shit and you're like, hey, Ben, you're being an asshole, I can reflect on my overall vision and be like, does this align with who I am? Does it align with my morals, my values, what I'm trying to teach, what I'm trying to coach, and where I want to be in life?
Yes.
And that self-awareness, that's why it's important. You have to have your self-checks, and you have to have that network of close board of directors, I like to call it, the people that are close to you that are going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because we all got those yes men in our life, those yes women, like, oh, hey, great job, you know. And you need those too. You know, there's a place for those people. They are your cheerleaders. It's kind of like we were talking about the kids, you know, and the parents clapping behind them.
Yes.
You need that. You need that too. So everybody has that role, but the self-awareness, that's why it's important.
Yeah.
You can't lead other people unless you know what you're doing and if it's right or wrong. You know, you gotta adapt to it.
You know, and you just said something great. You know, you're talking about we got to find ourselves. And sometimes even though we might think that we're those leaders, we're going to have to go back. You know, yesterday, I'll talk about a quick story. I went to the beach. You know, yesterday was my birthday. I went to the beach. Why?
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, I had to go back. My happy place, you know, there's a movie out there, go to your happy place, you know. And my happy place is being at the beach, putting my feet in the sand. But when I do that, I recharge. I start thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong that I can do better? How can I do better over here? And this was all just getting me going so I can keep on being a better leader. My purpose in life is to be able to help as many life as I can, help as many people that's gone through what I've gone through and help them lead not to go through there. Because you just gave a great example a few seconds ago that about the rappers, you know, they rap about all this, or people talk about the bad things. And what happens with the younger generation, they want to go towards that too, you know. So that knowing who you are and defining who you are to be able to guide those people to the right direction. Because when you're that leader, when people follow you, people are gonna go full on out with you, you know. And like I tell people, man, people used to follow me to do those bad things all the time, but when I decided to do good in life, people left me. I was like, man, this is crazy. No, I'm doing good. Trying to get back to the community. I'm trying to get back to the
Drama
people.
sells, man.
You know,
Drama
and
sells.
I lost so-called friends during that time. You know, I found who my real friends are, and they're not even friends. They're my family. You know, I got family now. My family grew, but you start understanding the awareness that we just talked about it. Emotions going to be a big conversation we're going to have, but you know, the emotions and all this. If we're not aware of the stuff that we're bringing to the team. You know, we got to check ourselves at times.
You know, going to the beach yesterday, that's your happy place, right? So there's a bunch of quotes and a bunch of motivational stuff out there, but, you know, it's always about rest, reset, restart, right? So that beach is really you going and centering yourself. It's you feeling the sand on your feet. It's you hearing the ocean vibes. It's you resetting your clock with nature, and it resets your mind. It puts it at ease to where you can jump back in and make that action that you're talking about. If you don't rest and you don't take time for yourself, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna lose motivation. You're gonna have to rely on the discipline that we talked about, because that motivation comes up and down, right? But the discipline stays forever. That's just the way of life. It's a mindset. So when you rest and reset like that, it's enabling you to go harder, faster, longer. You know, it's a marathon. Life's a marathon. We're not racing. We're not sprinting, all right? Oh, look at that, a little Nipsey Hussle shirt. You know, life's a marathon. It's not about right now. I don't need to succeed tomorrow. I don't need 1 million TikTok views and likes tomorrow. You know, I'm just trying to create a better world, one person, one relationship, one impactful moment at a time.
You know, and that's important, you know, because we can only, to make sure we give a full, good, well done job, we gotta focus on one person at a time. Because when we're trying to focus on multiple people, sometimes we're not gonna give them the best of 100% of us to be able to show them, you know, hey, this is what I got for you. Let's really dive into it, you know. And that's something that, you know, restaurant career wise, you know, that's what I've always liked about you. You focus. You'll pull us aside. I would always ask for time. Hey man, when do you got time so I can sit down and talk to you? And I'm always asking questions. I'm a person that likes to ask a lot of questions. Why? Because I want to keep on growing. My part is that the day we stop growing is the day we die. Why? Because we're not finished products, bro. We're gonna learn the rest of our lives. And if we put that in our mentality that we're always gonna be learning, guess what? You're gonna keep on growing.
And it's not just about growing and learning for the rest of our lives. We talked in the last episode about legacy.
Yes.
Right? I mean, this podcast is called Legacy Leaders 25. So it doesn't stop when you stop.
Yeah.
You take your last breath, I want that to live on. I take my last breath, I want that to live on. There's a message there to create a better world. And that's an infinite thing. It's not something that dies with you. It's not something that dies tomorrow. It's not something that dies with your heart. You know, creating that legacy that we talked about is impacting the world.
Yes.
One relationship at a time. But like you said, you gotta give them time, right?
Yes.
So if you're mentoring someone, or you're a leader, or you're friends with someone, or your spouse, or your kids, or whatever, time is the best way to do that.
Yep.
Right? There's an old saying. How do you spell love? Time. Time.
Yep.
That's how you spell love, right? And so a lot of people don't get that saying. They're like, "What do you mean? It's LOVE." No,
Yeah.
it's TIME. You give someone your time, that shows that I care. I'm taking time out of my personal life or my time to spend with you, to coach you, to lead you, to mentor you, to just have camaraderie and talk and chat. You know, that shows that you give a shit. You know, a little gas in the tank, so to speak. You give a shit.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because we'll talk about this. I got stories, man. I got stories to tell all day, you know. People used to, like, laugh because me and you we still hit each other up every single day. If I got an idea, I'm sending this guy my idea. Hey, bro, what do you think about this? Same thing. He got an idea, he sends it my way. I'm like, and we're constantly brainstorming, trying to find that next thing. And I'm gonna throw this quote out: we're one idea away from becoming millionaires. One idea.
Absolutely.
And if we're able to manifest and put the work in for that idea, you know, hey, you never know. My impact is not to make money off this podcast. My impact is to help how many people can I impact? How many people's lives can I change? That's what I made this podcast. I put my faith and my trust in God, and He's gonna do what He got to do. You know, I'm just out here trying to change people's lives. But
imagine this. Imagine we're on this podcast, right? And you're looking for that one idea, and maybe God's plan is not for you to be the millionaire. Maybe it's for you to drop the bomb. Someone listening to this, they have an idea. What if someone listening to this gets motivated and doesn't quit? Someone's saying, "Hey, you can't go to medical school. You don't have enough money. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough." And they hear this podcast and it motivates them, and they give the middle finger to all their family and friends, and they're like, "You know what? No, I'm gonna go do it." And that person goes on and cures cancer or something.
You know,
so it's about the impact. It's God's plan, like you said. You put your faith in God. Are you gonna make it to be a millionaire? Maybe. I have no doubt you will. Manifest it. You know, think about it. Is it gonna be through the podcast? Maybe, maybe not. You know, it could be that other idea coming out of it, but that comes from impacting other people. Once you impact other people, maybe someone sees this and they're like, "Hey, Juan, I got an idea for you." You know, but you talked about it, and it's funny because you talked about the relationship and how we text a lot. We talk and we hit each other up. It's funny, man, because sometimes I tell people the reason Juan made it so successful so fast when he did is because he asked a lot of questions. You know, you didn't just sit back and you weren't just like, "Oh, you know, I'll go about my day to day." You didn't let the day run you. You were always like looking at different things, right? Different friction points in the management, in different systems, and all right, how can I make this better, even if it's 1% better? And so you'd hit me up so often. I joke a lot of times, man. I'm like, "Man, he texts me more than my wife texts me." This dude hits me up more than my wife, you know. And it's funny, but that's the relationship you and I have. We're very tight like that. But we're also not afraid to say it's a stupid ass idea sometimes too. Like, bro, And we can be each other's naysayers too sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, that ain't gonna work. You're an idiot.
You know,
But we're also biggest cheerleaders for each other too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's kick ass. Let's go. Let's get it. I'll help you. What do you need from me?
And that's one thing a lot of people like looked at us, bro. They seen that teamwork that we had. That people were, at one point were scared of us because we were making so much noise together that we were unstoppable. We were always going at it, but we worked, we connected, and we were working on the same purpose. And that's the thing where people sometimes forget. We had the same goal in mind. We wanted to get better each day.
Always
Okay,
get better.
We made $250,000 this week. How can we get to a 280 now?
Yep.
Hey, we did this in 2 goes. How can we do this now? And we were always looking for that next win. We're constantly looking for that next win, you know. And that's why we connected. We still have the same mentality. We're still trying to change lives, you know. And that's why we ended up doing this podcast together. But you know, being able to align with all this and having that self-awareness that we impact a lot of people's lives. Someone told me that one day. He's like, you don't know. He's like, but you got to be aware that people are watching you. I was like, what do you mean people are watching you? He's like, yeah, people are watching you. He's like, you made a lot of change, you know. Me leaving the restaurant for a bit and doing my own thing, you know. I found myself, I came back and he's like, he's calm. Hey, he's relaxed all the time.
They expect you to be the same person you always were, though. You know, and people watch you not because they want to see you succeed. They want to see what you're going to do. You know, you weren't always calm before.
Nope.
So you being calm now, they're waiting for the lid to pop off. They're waiting for you to lose your shit.
Yep.
You know, but that's not going to happen because you centered yourself. You found yourself. You had those moments like going to the beach and you went on with your career and found other things and learned along the way. You didn't just stay the same. You evolved. You changed, like you said. A lot of people talk about change, but they don't actually do it. A lot of people are all talk. Some people, you know, will change for a short period of time. It'll be a couple months, then they drop the ball, and it's like, all right, cool. We see your true colors still, right?
You know.
But I think people are always going to watch you. People are going to watch you rooting for you that are motivated by you. Like, hey, I can do that too. You know, if he can do it, I can do it. And then other people are going to watch you because secretly they're hoping you fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
Yes.
There's a lot of haters.
Yeah, there is.
You know, we talk
There
about
is.
that.
We did.
But I told somebody yesterday, you were there for that conversation. Bad publicity, still publicity.
Yes.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Whether you like me or not, you're still talking about me. So it's staying relevant sometimes. You've got people out there that put on that persona in different careers, whether it's a fighting career or sports careers or stuff like that, you know, being the bad boy and they're still getting publicity for that. You know, there's a lot of fighters out there that they come off as a bad boy. You meet them in person, they're the nicest people ever. It's a persona. They're selling tickets, right? So I think you got to be able to really set your tone. But I don't want that persona.
No.
You know, my persona, I want to be seen as a leader. I want to be seen as a mentor. I want to be seen as a people developer and somebody that gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know, I want to impact the world. I want to save lives. I want to touch people's hearts. You know, and I want to be able to leave that legacy for my kids. Like I said, that one of my biggest quotes is 2 words: be kind.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we got to be able to just be our true, authentic selves, like we've been talking about, and push forward in leadership and development. And people are always going to watch you.
Yeah,
You know, so
always.
you can't let that noise in.
I always tell my sister. My sister always tells me, "Oh, you're a watcher." You know, I'm constantly watching. You know, because I know I come from the streets and all that. You know, you tend to watch a lot. You know, you're always watching your back and stuff. So I watch a lot and I see people, but I'm not there to ever criticize anybody because I ain't nobody to criticize. I'm always there to give feedback to the people, you know. And I had a conversation last week about it. You know, I was talking to this person. I was like, how can you get better? What can we do to get you better? Oh, that's the real question. What can we do to get you better? You know, whatever it is, we can work on it. Nobody was perfect doing what they're doing. But if you're willing to put the work in, you just talked about it, that consistency. Are you willing to put the work in to get to where you want to be? I was like, don't think that my success was overnight. How many no's did I get before I got that yes?
I mean, you got no's for a couple of years, man. I'm not gonna lie, you know.
Yeah.
And I always told you, hey, you're not ready. Hey, you're not ready. Hey, you're not ready. You know, but that was me setting you up too, because I don't want to see you fail.
Yeah.
Like you went up so fast. You talked about your downfall. You know, you talked about how you rose as a leader so fast, and then you couldn't see it, and then you focused on the next goal, the next goal, the next goal, and you succeeded so quickly that it was your downfall.
Yeah.
So sometimes as a leader, you have to draw people in, right? You
Yes.
got to pull them back. You know, and I've said that about a lot of people, and people say that about me.
Yeah.
You know, I got a mentor and a leader in my life. He tells me that all the time. You know, I see green and I go.
Yeah.
You know, I don't put as much thought into it because I am about action. I
Yes.
want to get shit done. You know, so sometimes I don't put the thought behind it for 10 years or, you know, but that's also a good quality because I'm also going to be the first one to jump off that cliff.
Yeah.
When it's time to jump, I'm jumping. You don't have to question, you know, if I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. But at the same time, I've found myself in that same situation where I'll make terrible mistakes because I don't think things through all the time, you know, and I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that, you know, but that's a learning experience. But it's funny you said that because it reminded me of that story, and I get that all the time. I do things without hesitation. I make decisions very quickly because I'm all about action, and sometimes it's great and it works out and I get applause for it. It's like, hey, great job, Ben. You know, and other times like, man, what the hell's that guy doing?
Yeah.
And I gotta eat crow, and I gotta come and be like, well, I fucked that up.
Yeah,
won't do that again.
But that's the important part, that we take ownership of what we do. You know, we're not scared to say, we don't blame it on the next guy. We're the leaders, so if something goes wrong, hey, that was on me. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it. We'll correct it, and we'll keep on going. And that's probably one of the traits that I was able to learn a lot. You know, that the kid came in trying to tell someone he did it wrong. No, it was on me. I should have corrected it before anything happened. You know,
that's just it, right?
Yeah.
When something goes wrong, it's on us.
Yes.
When something goes right, that's my team.
It's the
that's
team.
the people around us, right?
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to. You burden the negativity and you give them the positivity and the praise that's needed to keep them motivated and keep them going and keep them just engaged. You know, tell people when they're kicking ass.
Yeah.
You know, if we win, it's we.
Yeah.
If I fail, it's I.
Yeah. And you know, talking about that, winning, you know, I had 3 good years of just winning, nonstop winning. We both had that. The whole team had 3 years of nonstop winning when we were number one and everything. Nobody could beat us, you know. And eventually, when that time came where we weren't winning no more, you know, it's kind of where the downfall, I guess, kind of started for me, you know, because I couldn't find that next win, you know. And sometimes it's hard for us, you know, if we can't find that next win, we keep on putting the work, You ain't reaching that level that you were once at, you know. And this is a whole different topic off the subject, but how do you ground yourself back to that?
You know, it's all about peaks and valleys and plateaus, right? I mean, you're going to see that no matter what industry, whether you're restaurants or bodybuilding or selling cars or whatever. There's peaks and valleys everywhere.
Yeah.
When you're at a peak, right, everything's high, everything's great. There's a view of everything. You're helping other people up so you're not alone at the top of the mountain. You know, everything's great. But don't get comfortable.
Yeah.
Life's a roller coaster. It's going to have ups and downs, period, right? So when you're at the bottom, it sucks. But, you know, the silver lining is there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
So when you're all the way at the bottom, you're like, all right, cool, I can do this too.
Yeah.
You know, so the really shitty place for me to be is the plateau.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm high, I'm great. When I'm down low, I'm like, all right, let's get after it.
Yeah.
I kick it in another gear. I know what I got to do. I got my goals. I got my sights set. When I'm in a plateau, I feel like I'm coasting. That's when I'm the most unhappy. Because it's like I'm not at the bottom, so I'm not really reaching for nothing because I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, but if I'm not at the top either.
Yeah.
So it's like no pressure. You know, when you're at the top, there's pressure to perform
Yes.
again and again and again, right? So when you win something like a prestigious award, there's more pressure after you win it because now you got to repeat it, right? It's like you go to the Super Bowl and you win the Super Bowl, everyone's looking at you next year like, are they going to win again?
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a lot of pressure there. You know, when you're at the bottom, you got the pressure of make it or break it. You
Yes.
got to get your ass up and get to work.
Yeah.
You know, so the plateau is really the unhappiness place for me. You know, it's a hard one for me because you get comfortable, and then that's when your day to day seems very mundane, and you just kind of coasting. And that's where you got to be able to check your feelings and be like, all right, I'm doing good, but am I better than yesterday?
Yes.
And that goes back to that question we talked about in episode 1 that we should all be asking ourselves every day.
Yep.
Am I better than yesterday?
You know, and let's move on to that next one. How do you build real trust and connection as a leader? That's very important.
Trust is the foundation for all the success and all the pillars and everything that you'll do. You have to have trust. We talk about I can't work with you if I can't trust
Yep.
you. I can't have a relationship with you if I can't trust
Yep.
you. You know, and that goes for everyone in my life. It doesn't matter if you're my friend, my colleague, my work associate, my spouse, my kids. It doesn't matter. If I can't trust you, I can't fuck with you.
Yep.
You know, and so I think it has to do with being authentic and, again, owning your bullshit. None of us are perfect. I say it a million times, and I'll say it a million more times. Nobody's perfect. You know, there's people out there that walk in Christ that act holier than thou, that
Yeah.
want to be perfect. You know, and I'm a Christian. I can't believe they're doing that and cast judgment on everybody. None of us are perfect.
Yep.
Right? So as long as you can look me in the eye and say, hey, I messed up, I did this, and not lie to me and not have that trust broken, I mess with you. You know, I'll do whatever. I'll go to battle for that. I can respect that.
Yeah.
You know, so it really comes down to owning your self accountability,
Yeah.
and standing up for the integrity that you have.
Yeah.
And that's how you build the trust. You have to walk in that same light, right? Like if I mess up, I'm gonna just say I messed up.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I blew that. It won't happen again.
Yep.
You know, now you got to follow that up with action.
Yeah.
You say you're not going to do it again, and you do it again, and then again, and again.
That
and
trust
again.
goes lost sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys out there running around cheating on girls left and right and
Yeah.
shit, right? And these girls are still going, these broke ass bums.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing, girl? You know, same thing for the girls. You know, there's girls out there got 8-10 dudes in the DMs.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, homeboy's at home cleaning your house, cooking, then he's going to work, he's taking care of your kids, and you're entertaining 20 other dudes in your DMs, or they're sending you gifts and stuff like that, right? So it's like, nah, girl, maybe you're not out there putting it out there, but you ain't stopping it either.
Yep.
That's trust too,
Yep.
right? So if you ain't putting your foot down, like, nah, not interested, turn my head. And that goes for girls and guys, you know, in the relationship realm. But, you know, it's just like, you gotta just hold yourself with that integrity and hold other people's accountable around you. You know, just say, hey, no, I know you messed up.
Yeah.
You if you can say you messed up, and I know you messed up, we can come to terms, and we can put this behind us, and we can work on our relationship, and we can keep building that trust back up.
Yep.
Does it sting any less if someone breaks your heart, or lies to you, or cheats, or steals from you?
Yep.
Nah, I mean it's still gonna sting, right? It's still gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But you can respect it, and you can build back on that trust from there. It's not completely lost if they own it.
Yeah.
You know, if they lie, cheat, steal, hide it, blame other people, that's gone. It's lost.
And like you said, that key is to own up to it, you know, but not do it again.
Yep.
You know, because it's a boy that cried wolf. You know, you're gonna keep on saying that and saying it until eventually you're gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna go down this path. You can keep on doing what you're doing. I'm gonna go over here. You know, and that's at the end of the day, the true thing is accountability. You know, being accountable for yourself. You know, putting actions. You know, and I'll talk about it. You know, it took me a bit. When all that went down, you know, we talked about it. You fired me for the actions that I did take, you know, and what did I do? I started thinking about it, and then I had to accept my wrongs. You know, I had to cross them out. You know, I did wrong. I know I did wrong. Own up to my mistakes, and move forward from it. You know, I wasn't gonna dwell on those mistakes that I committed, but only learn from my mistakes. You know, and just keep on getting better. And that was biggest thing I had to do was just own up to it, eat it,
Well,
take my
and-
loss as it was, and you know, because for one loss, I'm gonna get 10 wins no matter what. You feel me? I'm gonna keep on grinding until I get my wins again. So you know, understanding that, but holding myself accountable, you know. And we sat down. When we sat down, I told her, at the end of the day,
It's funny because that story, man, sitting down and firing you is probably the easiest person I ever had to fire, at the same time as the hardest person I ever had to fire, right? It's hard because I care deeply for you.
Yeah.
You know, we're very close. You're my close friend. You know, so firing you sucked. You know, but at the same time, it was easy because you already knew you fucked up.
Yeah.
I called a spade a spade. You accepted it for what it was. Yeah. You said, yeah, I fucked up. But that's why we were able to remain close and still, through thick and thin, able to keep this relationship and building stuff like this now.
Yeah.
You know, it's that relationship was never tarnished. That trust was never broken. That pillar of trust still stands today, knowing that I'll own my part, you own your part, call it what it is, you know. And it's funny because, like I said, it was the hardest person I ever had to fire. But at the same time, it was easy because you knew you fucked up, and that self-accountability, you didn't blame me, you didn't blame the business, you didn't blame other people. You're like, hey, I messed up. So I was like, hey, handshake, hit me up later.
Yeah, it was and that's really what happened. You know, I owned up to my mistakes. I knew I was in the wrong. I wasn't gonna find nothing. You know, I learned. I was like, you know what? It is what it is. I take my L on this one. I did something wrong. I gotta own up to it. You know, but after that, I was in kind of denial after I left. You know, not towards the business or anything, but myself. Because people would ask me, and I was scared to tell them I got fired. I'm on the podcast now telling people I got fired, you know, because I don't really care about it. That was what built me up to. I think the biggest blessing was you firing me. Because when we sat down, bro, what I tell you, thank you for firing me. I was happy.
You did say thank you.
I was happy that you fired
Yeah,
me.
I mean,
Why?
it
Because
recentered you.
you feel me? I was so happy that I got fired. Why? Because all that pressure that I had.
That next win.
You feel
that next
me?
win, like you said, when you're winning the Super Bowl, you got a lot of pressure on you. You know, so you're able to take that loss and really move forward and focus on your vision and who you are and your character. Not, you know, we talked about your job doesn't define you.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot, right? At that point in your career, your job defined you. You woke up in the morning, you'd be at work by like 6 a.m. I wouldn't even have you scheduled till 8.
Yeah.
You know, and then you'd be 6 o'clock. I'd be like, hey, man, go ahead and get out of here. You're at 12 hours. You'd be around for another 4 hours before I'm like, all right, bro, no, you got to get your shit. Like, you got to go. Like, it's me protecting you from you at this point. You got to get the hell out of here. You know, but you literally were living, eating, breathing that restaurant at the time. So it was unhealthy at the same time because you were seeking that validation and that next win every time because you were trying to keep that pressure of winning again.
Yeah.
You know, when it's okay not to win all the time, as long as you're putting in your best effort without killing yourself, because there has to be that self-balance too, that rest and reset and restart mentality. You have to take a break every now and then. We talked in the last episode about a lot of entrepreneurs talk about how they're working 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, and a lot of them do. We established that. It's true, right? People do that, which is great. But they don't have healthy relationships at home. They don't have physical health.
Nope.
Mentally, they're not okay. They're kind of fucked up in the head.
Yep.
You know, they have a lot of mental issues. Spiritually, they're not right. You know, they're not getting right with their higher power, their God, or whatever they believe in.
Yep.
You know, so firing you probably helped recenter you a little bit. You were able to find your faith again, right?
Yeah.
You were a little out of line with your faith at the time.
Yep.
You were drinking again. You were doing things you shouldn't have been doing. You know, so you were able to find your faith. You were able to push through in your career just at a different restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, so you're able to put that on you. You're able to keep your house. You know, you kept your car.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people lose their job. They lose their car. They lose their house. They lose motivation to get up in the morning. They lose the discipline to keep showing up. So you were able to accept the L, get your ass up, get back to work. So, yeah, I mean, it was a blessing. It recentered you, I'm sure. You know, now look at you.
And I'm going to just tell this quick story. When I did get fired, I went to the gym. They told me there was a seminar going on, and I went straight to the seminar, you know, and most people, what would they do? They would be crying, drinking, I lost my job. I literally did not care at that point. I took 2 months off, but eventually we're going to have a podcast on me, an interview about me, so you guys know who I am, what's my story.
That'll be a good one. That's going to be a fun one.
And I got, like I said, I got a lot of stories. My life's been a book that's eventually going to be written, you know, and it's in the works. But a book about me, I have a lot of stories that I've gone through. Funny stories, sad stories, happy stories, and I have it all.
Life, man.
It's life, you know.
That's what creates that leadership in you.
Yeah.
Because you've lived it, you've learned it, you've failed over and over and over, and you've succeeded over and over and over. You know, and you don't give up and you apply it. And then again, we were talking about adaptability earlier. You're able to take what you learn and adapt it, and that's where you're going to keep growing as a leader and a mentor to other people and doing legacy. Leaders 25, you know, there's going to be a lot of great content coming out on this podcast, and when we do that interview, I'm excited to do it. I'm gonna host it. I'm gonna interview you, so we're gonna have some fun with that one.
You know, and just to let you guys know that we do have a bunch more in the works. We're gonna also be recording many clips of just us sharing content, him by himself, me by myself, just giving you guys that wisdom so you guys can keep on going while we do record our next podcast, or maybe we might be backed up because we do got other things going on, but we want to keep on giving you guys content so you guys can keep on listening. And like I said at the beginning, if you like it, share it. Support a local entrepreneur is trying to make a difference in the world, trying to make a difference in the community, you know. But this is our last question because time's running up. What role does empathy play in leadership today?
Empathy is everything in leadership, because if you can't put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand what they're feeling deeply and connect with them emotionally, then it's hard to lead them. Right? You have to be able to feel their fear.
Yeah.
You have to be able to feel their sadness or their excitement. You know, you have to put yourself on that emotional level. A lot of people talk about leading in black and white. It's either wrong or it's right, or taking the feelings out of it and making it a logical thing. Leading is not logical. It is to a point, but leading is all about empathy. And being that empathetic leader is having the charisma to feel deeply and passionately with those people you're trying to lead. Mm-hmm. If their heart's broken, your heart's broken. Yep. If they're excited, you're excited. You feel their pain, and that allows you to put yourself in their shoes and help them push through whatever their emotions are. Just like me as a parent, me as a dad, yeah. I have to do that on a daily basis with my kids, right? Because something as easy as, hey, go put your shoes on. They don't do it. Hey, go put your shoes on. They don't do it. Hey, go put your shoes on. They don't do it. And then I lose my shit, and I'm like, put your shoes on.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden they're in crocodile tears. And they're like, why'd you yell at me? Well, I asked you nicely 3 other times. So I got to step back as a dad and really be like, okay, there's some hurt feelings.
Yes.
Why? Right? Maybe it wasn't they didn't hear me. Maybe it's because I asked it the same way 3 times. So being empathetic would be putting myself in their shoes and saying, okay, this isn't the way they're hearing me. This isn't the way they're learning. Now that I can put myself in their shoes, I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to adapt the way I had that question or leadership, whether it's putting on your shoes, whether it's pulling your head out of your ass in your personal life, whether it's kicking ass in your career. You know, if you're empathetic towards people, you can lead them through deep passion in your heart, and that's where being a good leader. And I feel like that's one of my strong suits as a leader. I'm able to sit there and laugh with you. I'm able to sit there and cry with you. I'm able to get pissed and angry with you and smash some shit in a break room or whatever, you know. And it's empowering because people know I'm real, I'm authentic, and I have emotions too. And I think that's probably one of the biggest qualities a leader should have is being empathetic.
Yeah, and I like that what you just said about your kids. You know, the way we said it. Sometimes it's not what we say; it's how we say it. And sometimes we don't listen to ourselves, and that makes an impact on the people that we're talking to. Because in our mind, we might have thought we said it in the correct way, you know. But like, we got to put ourselves in their shoes. We got to understand them, where they're coming from. Because at the end of the day, they might be having a bad day, and we might have just said it, you know. And their emotions are at the high. So what's gonna happen? They're gonna start crying, and it's happened to me, you know, where people start crying on me, and it's something that I've learned, you know, being able to have that skill to be able to be in the shoes, you know, like, hey, don't worry about it, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine, we can get over this, you know. Because at first I didn't have that empathy, you feel me? I came from the streets, bro, so it was hard for me to have empathy for people.
It took a long time to break those walls down,
you know, and not being able to connect with the people. And eventually, you know, I learned it. I started caring for the people. I started being there for the people. I used to make them breakfast. I used to bring them donuts. I used to make pizza, ice cream, everything, because I always, in my mind, it's always be that leader that you wish you would have had, or be that person you wish you would have had. And I wanted to be a great leader, but like you just said, I'm gonna do these nice things, but when I ask for something, or when I tell you guys, hey, I need this done, please, you guys don't do it the first time, I'm gonna come back, hey man, can you guys please do this? And at the third time, everybody knew from me being being calm at that moment, but they knew who I was. And when I was gonna go off, I was gonna go off. And what happened? You
know, and I told you that a lot of times in your career too, because in the beginning, man, you didn't have that, you know, 0 to 90 slow speed. It was 0 to 90 like that, right? Yep. When Juan was pissed, he's just gonna pop off and be an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, that's a skill set that you've learned is being able to put yourself in their shoes and being empathetic, so you're able to be a little more patient, right? One of the things I talked to you about early on in your career is being the master of your own emotions.
Yeah.
You know, the minute you lose your own emotions and lose control, you've given all control to everybody else around you. But being empathetic and feeling their pain or their struggles, whatever they're going through, whether they're on their emotional highs, like you said, you know, it puts you in their shoes so that you can ask in a different tone, a different way, and being able to be patient. I think that's one of the skill sets you've learned over the last years that you really mastered.
Yeah.
You know, and putting yourself in that position where you can be an empathetic leader and feel passionately, right? Like if someone's family member passes away, you feel that shit deeply. Yeah. You know, it's not just like, hey, I'm sorry about that, pat on the back, have a great day.
Yeah.
You know, it's you take the time, like we talked about earlier, that time is love.
Yeah.
You take the time to spend with them, and they don't want you to fix it, right? If they got a problem, it's not always about fixing shit. You and I talked about this yesterday. Yeah. Sometimes it's about just listening, just being there.
Yeah.
You don't even have to comment sometimes. You can sit there, let somebody go off for 30 minutes and just listen without responding. A lot of people, when it comes to active listening, they're not doing it. They're listening to make a response to other people, right? So when you're empathetic and you're really truly active listening and supporting people for the way they feel, whether they're sad about something or whether they're excited about something, you know, I think that shows true leadership, and that's about that servant mentality, like we talked about earlier. Is what can I do for you? You know, anytime I do a one-on-one with people, and you know this because I've done many one-on-ones with you, the last question I ever ask anyone, sitting at a table or standing up or wherever we're at, whatever we're having a one-on-one or we're having a moment, I would say, hey, can I do anything for you?
Yes.
Is there anything I can do for you? And that's that empathy and that servant leadership that kind of creates that mentality in my mind.
And having that, and talking about this, you know, the book that you wrote, you know, it talks about those subjects and that being an active listening, being compassionate with the people, you know, understanding them. So, you know, if you guys want that knowledge or just to read upon something that's gonna get you to that next level, don't be afraid to get his book.
Elevate the Art of Purposeful Leadership. You can get it on Amazon, get it at Barnes & Noble, get it at any of the book platforms out there. You know, it touches on a few different things from emotional intelligence, interpersonal communication skills, empathy, you know, and that's just a couple things that it talks about in there. But there's some good content in there. It's not a super long book. It's not like 500 pages. You're not going to get bored. It's a super easy read, about 120 pages, really just on the basics of the morals of leadership in my points of view, the things and the characteristics that I feel are valuable as a leader. And, you know, it's more of a book on those values of leadership, and it does have some great knowledge in there. You know, so pick it up, easy read. Let me know what you think. Definitely drop me an email, drop me a like on Elevate Your Edge on Instagram, or, you know, get on that Legacy Leaders 25 podcast. We're on Instagram as well. Drop us a message on there. You know, let us know what you guys think.
You know, I do got more coming out. Like I just said earlier, I'm working on a YouTube page. I'm working on a TikTok page. You know, I am a busy person. I'm constantly keeping myself busy. So there's only a few hours out my day where I do have time to sit down on my computer. Today, me and him worked some time to be able to record this podcast. I'm constantly moving. I'm constantly doing things. But eventually, all that's going to be up. And when it is, you guys can follow Legacy Leaders 25 on Instagram. All information is going to be on the link on the bio. But I hope y'all ready for this. We got a bunch more lined up. We're looking for the next leaders in the community that want to get interviewed, that want to put their name out there. And we want to promote people that are making an impact in the community, making a change in the community, you know. Don't be afraid to hit us up.
If you're an impactful person in the community, definitely send us a message on Legacy Leaders 25. Shoot us a DM on that, and then drop some topics too, guys. You know, like if there's something you want to hear us get passionate about, we're not afraid to be real and authentic and tell you what we think. You know, as far as different ideas and topics out there go. So if you have topics that you want to hear us talk about, whether it's mental health or anything along those lines, leadership wise, drop it in the DMs on that Legacy Leaders 25.
And that's all. Until next time, stay grounded, stay bold, keep building that legacy only you can leave. We're out.